Marcus Johnson shifted his weight from one foot to the other as he stood in the busy hospital waiting room, his 4-year-old son Jaden clinging to his leg. The antiseptic smell filled their nostrils while the sounds of beeping machines and hurried footsteps echoed through the corridors. Jaden had been running a fever for 3 days, and despite Marcus's best efforts with children's medicine and cool baths, nothing seemed to help. "Daddy, my tummy hurts," Jaden whispered, his small voice barely audible above the hospital noise. Marcus knelt down and gently brushed his son's curly hair away from his forehead. The boy's skin felt warm to the touch, and his usually bright brown eyes looked tired and glassy. "I know, little man. The doctor's going to make you feel better, okay? Just like when you had that bad cough last winter." They had been waiting for almost an hour. Marcus checked his phone for the 3rd time in 10 minutes, worried about missing work again. As a maintenance supervisor at a local apartment complex, he couldn't afford to take too many days off. But Jaden came first, always. That's how it had been for the past 3 years, ever since it became just the two of them. The waiting room was packed with families. An elderly man coughed into a tissue while his wife rubbed his back. A young mother tried to calm her crying baby. 2 teenagers sat scrolling through their phones, occasionally glancing at their worried-looking father. Marcus felt a familiar pang of loneliness watching the complete families around him. "Jaden Johnson," a nurse called from the reception desk. Marcus picked up Jaden, who wrapped his arms around his father's neck. They followed the nurse down a bright hallway, lined with colorful paintings of cartoon animals. Jaden pointed weakly at a giraffe wearing a stethoscope. "Look, Daddy. Giraffe doctor." "That's right, buddy. Maybe he'll be your doctor today," Marcus smiled, trying to keep things light despite his growing concern. The nurse led them to a small examination room and asked them to wait for Dr. Martinez. Marcus set Jaden on the examination table, where the boy immediately lay down and curled up into a ball. His father sat in the plastic chair beside him, gently rubbing his back. "Mr. Johnson?" Dr. Martinez entered with a warm smile. She was a middle-aged Latina woman with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "I see Jaden has been feeling under the weather." Marcus explained the symptoms while Dr. Martinez examined Jaden. She checked his temperature, listened to his chest, and felt his stomach. Jaden was unusually quiet during the examination, which worried Marcus even more. Usually his son was full of questions and energy. "I'd like to run some blood tests just to be safe," Dr. Martinez said. "It could be a simple virus, but with the persistent fever, I want to rule out anything more serious." Marcus nodded, his stomach tightening. "What kind of things are you looking for?" "Probably nothing serious, but we want to check for infections that might need antibiotics. The blood work will tell us everything we need to know." A few minutes later, a nurse came to take them to the laboratory. As they walked down another corridor, Jaden suddenly perked up in Marcus's arms. The boy's head lifted from his father's shoulder and his eyes grew wide. "Mommy!" Jaden called out loudly, his voice echoing in the hallway. Marcus stopped dead in his tracks. His heart began pounding as he followed his son's gaze. Walking toward them was a tall, elegant black woman in an expensive-looking navy blue suit. Her hair was pulled back in a perfect bun, and she carried herself with the confidence of someone used to being in charge. Diamond earrings caught the fluorescent lights, and her heels clicked purposefully against the polished floor. The woman froze when she heard Jaden's voice. Her hand flew to her chest, and her perfectly composed expression cracked for just a moment. Her eyes locked with Jaden's, then quickly moved to Marcus's face. "Mommy, Mommy!" Jaden struggled in Marcus's arms, reaching toward the woman. Marcus felt the world spinning around him. This couldn't be happening. Not here, not now. He held Jaden tighter, his mind racing with 1,000 questions and emotions he thought he had buried years ago. The woman took a step closer, her expensive perfume mixing with the hospital's clinical smell. "Jaden?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm sorry," Marcus said quickly, his voice coming out rougher than intended. "I think there's been some mistake. Come on, Jaden, we need to get your blood test done." But Jaden wouldn't stop reaching for the woman. "That's my mommy, Daddy! That's my mommy!" Other people in the hallway began to stare. A security guard looked their way, unsure if there was a problem. The woman's eyes filled with tears she was clearly trying to control. "Please," she said softly, taking another step forward. Could we talk?" Marcus looked at his son, whose fever seemed forgotten in his excitement. Then he looked at this woman who had somehow turned their world upside down with just her presence. His mind flashed back to that day 3 years ago when everything changed. When he found himself suddenly responsible for a confused, crying toddler who kept asking for his mommy. "Daddy, why won't you let me see mommy?" Jaden's voice was getting louder, more distressed. The woman reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. Her hands were shaking slightly. "My name is Dr. Adrienne Washington. I'm the chief executive officer at Washington Medical Group. Could we please find somewhere private to talk?" Marcus stared at the card. The hospital's logo was embossed on expensive cardstock. This woman wasn't just wealthy, she was powerful, important. Everything he wasn't. Everything he could never be for Jaden. "I don't understand what's happening," Marcus said, his voice thick with confusion and old pain. "Neither do I," Dr. Washington replied, her composed mask slipping further. "But that little boy, he looks exactly like—" She couldn't finish the sentence. The professional, controlled woman was coming apart right there in the hospital corridor where she clearly worked, where people knew her, where her reputation mattered. Jaden had stopped struggling and was now just staring at her with the intense focus that only children possess. "You're really pretty, Mommy. I missed you so much." The words hit both adults like a physical blow. Dr. Washington pressed her lips together, fighting back tears. Marcus felt his own eyes burning. "There's a private consultation room down the hall," she managed to say. "Could we—" "Please?" The consultation room was small but comfortable, with soft lighting and 2 chairs facing each other across a low table. Dr. Washington closed the door behind them and immediately loosened her professional demeanor. Marcus sat down carefully with Jaden still in his arms, while she took the chair across from them. "I need to call the lab and postpone Jaden's blood work for a few minutes," she said, her voice shaky. "I'm sorry, I need to understand what's happening here." She made a quick phone call, her CEO authority clear even in her emotional state. When she hung up, she looked directly at Jaden, who was studying her face with curious 4-year-old intensity. "Hi, sweetheart," she said softly. "You're so big now. Are you really my mommy?" Jaden asked, his fever-dulled eyes still bright with hope. Dr. Washington looked at Marcus, clearly asking for permission to answer. Marcus felt trapped between protecting his son and needing answers to questions that had haunted him for 3 years. "Jaden," Marcus said carefully, "this lady might know your mommy. But we need to talk first, okay? Can you play with your tablet for a few minutes?" He pulled out a small tablet and loaded Jaden's favorite educational game. The boy settled back against his father's chest, occasionally glancing at Dr. Washington while he played. "How do you know my son?" Marcus asked quietly. Dr. Washington took a deep breath, composing herself. 3 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I was going through a divorce, fighting for custody of my daughter. My ex-husband was trying to prove I was an unfit mother because of my work schedule. The legal battle was destroying everything. She paused, watching Jaden tap colorful shapes on his screen. I had been seeing a therapist, Dr. Rebecca Chen. She suggested I consider temporary guardianship for Jaden while I got my life together. She said she knew a social worker who could help arrange something informal. Marcus felt his stomach drop. "Dr. Chen, she's the one who brought Jaden to me. You know her?" "She was my therapist too, after my wife died in that car accident. I was falling apart, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. She helped me through the worst time of my life." Marcus shifted Jaden slightly. "Then one day she called and said there was a little boy who needed temporary care. She said his mother was in the hospital and couldn't care for him." Dr. Washington closed her eyes. "I never said he needed permanent placement. I just needed 6 months to get through the custody battle and establish a stable home environment. Rebecca assured me it would be temporary, that she would handle all the paperwork." "But there was no paperwork," Marcus said, his voice rising slightly. "She told me his mother had died, that there was no family. She said the state was looking for emergency placement." Both adults stared at each other as the horrible truth began to emerge. Jaden continued playing his game, oblivious to the conversation that was reshaping his world. "Dr. Chen told me you were a widowed man who wanted to adopt," Dr. Washington whispered. "She said you had been trying for months to find a child to adopt. She said you specifically wanted a toddler and that you understood the placement might become permanent." Marcus felt sick. "She told me you had signed away your parental rights, that you didn't want him." "I never signed anything. I gave her temporary medical authorization and emergency contact information. That's all? Dr. Washington's hands were trembling. When I came back after winning my custody case, Rebecca's office was closed. Her secretary said she had moved to another state for family reasons. Her phone was disconnected. I tried to find information about Jaden's background, Marcus said. Every time I asked Dr. Chen questions, she said it would be better for him if I didn't dig into his past trauma. She said his mother had been mentally ill and that knowing the details might hurt him. Dr. Washington reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. She scrolled through photos until she found what she was looking for, then turned the screen toward Marcus. It was a picture of a much younger Jaden, maybe 18 months old, sitting in a high chair with birthday cake smeared across his face. In the background, a woman who was clearly Dr. Washington was laughing and clapping. This was his second birthday, she said quietly. 3 months before I made that terrible decision to trust Dr. Chen. Marcus stared at the photo, then at the woman across from him. Jaden definitely had her nose and her smile. The resemblance was undeniable. Why didn't you look for him when Dr. Chen disappeared? Marcus asked. I did. I hired private investigators. I filed police reports. But Rebecca had told me your first name was Mike and that you lived in Oregon. I spent months searching Oregon for a widowed man named Mike who had adopted a boy matching Jaden's description. She wiped away a tear. I never thought to look in my own city, and I never knew your real name. My middle name is Michael, Marcus said slowly. Dr. Chen always called me Mike in our sessions. 3 years, Dr. Washington said. 3 years I've been searching for my son. Jaden looked up from his game. Daddy, can the pretty lady read me a story? My head feels funny. Both adults realized they had been so absorbed in their conversation that they had forgotten about Jaden's fever. Dr. Washington immediately shifted back into medical mode. We need to get him to the lab, she said, standing up. His blood work can't wait any longer. As they walked toward the laboratory, Dr. Washington explained her current life. After winning custody of her daughter Emma, now 8 years old, she had thrown herself into her career. She had built Washington Medical Group from a small practice into the largest medical network in the region. She lived in a penthouse downtown and had everything money could buy, except the son she thought she had lost forever. Emma asks about her little brother sometimes, she said as they waited for the lab technician. I told her he was staying with another family while Mommy got everything ready. I never stopped believing I would find him. Marcus watched Jaden get his blood drawn, the boy being braver than Marcus felt. His mind was spinning with questions. What did this mean for their life together? What about Jaden's routine, his daycare, his friends? What about Marcus's own feelings? He loved this little boy as if he were his biological son. The results will take about 30 minutes, the lab technician said. You can wait in the consultation room if you'd like. As they walked back, Jaden suddenly stopped and tugged on Dr. Washington's expensive suit jacket. Mommy, are you going to take me home now? He asked innocently. Both adults froze. This wasn't just about their own feelings anymore. This little boy, sick and confused, was asking the question that would change all their lives. Dr. Washington knelt down to Jaden's level, her CEO composure completely gone. Sweetheart, Mommy needs to talk to Daddy about some important grown-up things. But I want you to know that I love you so much, and I'm so happy to see you. I love you too, Mommy. Daddy loves me a lot too. Can Daddy come live with us? The simple, innocent question hung in the air like a challenge to everything they thought they knew about their situation. Back in the consultation room, Marcus sat with Jaden on his lap while Dr. Washington paced near the window. The little boy had fallen asleep against his father's chest, finally succumbing to the fever and exhaustion. The silence between the two adults was heavy with unspoken fears and questions. I need to be honest with you, Dr. Washington finally said, turning away from the window. I came to this hospital today for a board meeting. I never thought I'd see him here. Marcus adjusted Jaden carefully, making sure not to wake him. This is his pediatrician's hospital. We've been coming here since he was 2. You must have seen him before. I don't work in pediatrics, and I usually use the executive floors. Our paths wouldn't have crossed. She sat down, her expensive suit somehow looking less perfect now. Marcus, I need you to understand something. When I made that decision 3 years ago, I was drowning. My daughter Emma was only 5, and my ex-husband was threatening to take her away permanently. I thought I was protecting Jaden by finding him temporary care. Temporary, Marcus repeated bitterly. Do you have any idea what these 3 years have been like? I've been to every parent-teacher conference, every doctor's appointment, every sleepless night when he had nightmares. I taught him to ride a bike, to tie his shoes, to say his prayers. Dr. Washington's eyes filled with tears. I know, and I can see how much he loves you. But Marcus, I'm his mother. Are you? The words came out harsher than Marcus intended, because being someone's mother means more than biology. It means being there when they need you. That's not fair. I thought I was doing what was best for him. By abandoning him? I didn't abandon him! Dr. Washington stood up abruptly, then caught herself and lowered her voice. I trusted someone I shouldn't have trusted. I made a mistake, but I never stopped loving him or looking for him. Marcus looked down at Jaden's peaceful face. The boy's fever had broken slightly, but his cheeks were still flushed. He doesn't remember you. He recognized me immediately. Kids recognize a lot of people. It doesn't mean he remembers you as his mother. Marcus's voice was quiet but firm. To him, I'm his father. I'm the one who's been here. Dr. Washington sat back down, leaning forward with her hands clasped. I'm not trying to take him away from you, Marcus. I can see that you love him and that he loves you. But I'm his mother and I have rights. Rights? Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. You gave up those rights when you handed him over to a stranger 3 years ago. I was manipulated by someone I trusted. That doesn't make me a bad mother, doesn't it? Marcus immediately regretted the words, but he couldn't take them back. The room fell silent except for the soft sound of Jaden's breathing and the distant hospital noises filtering through the closed door. I've built a good life for him, Marcus said more quietly. He's happy, he's healthy, he's loved. His daycare teachers adore him. He has friends. He has routines and stability. I can give him more than that, Dr. Washington said. I can give him opportunities you never could. The best schools, travel, a sister who's been asking about him for 3 years. I can give him a mother who understands him, who shares his heritage. Marcus felt the familiar sting of his own limitations. He was a maintenance supervisor living in a 1-bedroom apartment. Dr. Washington was a successful CEO who probably made in a month what he made in a year. Money isn't everything, he said. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about family, about belonging. I'm talking about Emma, who cries sometimes because she misses her little brother. I'm talking about grandparents who have never met their grandson. He has family. He has me. You're not his blood family. Family isn't about blood. Family is about showing up every day, about being there when someone needs you. Dr. Washington was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. You're right. You are his family. But so am I, and so is Emma and his grandparents. Why does it have to be an either-or situation? Marcus looked at her suspiciously. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe there's a way for all of us to be part of his life. Like what? Weekend visits? Holidays? You think a 4-year-old can handle that kind of confusion? I think a 4-year-old deserves to know his whole family. Before Marcus could respond, there was a knock on the door. Dr. Martinez entered with a clipboard and a gentle smile. I have Jaden's test results, she said. Everything looks good. It's just a viral infection. Plenty of fluids, rest in children's acetaminophen for the fever. He should be feeling better in a few days. Marcus felt relief wash over him. At least one crisis was manageable. Thank you, Dr. Martinez, Dr. Washington said formally. I appreciate your thorough care. Dr. Martinez looked between them curiously, but didn't ask questions. Jaden can go home whenever he's ready. After the doctor left, Jaden stirred in Marcus's arms. He opened his eyes and looked around the room, then focused on Dr. Washington. Mommy, are you coming home with us? He asked sleepily. The innocent question hit both adults like a punch to the gut. Dr. Washington looked at Marcus pleadingly. I live in a different house, sweetheart, she said carefully. But maybe I could visit you sometime? Can I see your house? Does it have a big TV? Dr. Washington laughed despite her tears. It has a very big TV and a swimming pool. And your sister Emma has been saving toys for you. Jaden's eyes grew wide. I have a sister? Marcus felt his world shifting again. This conversation was moving too fast, getting too complicated for a sick 4-year-old to process. Jaden, Marcus said gently, we need to get you home and into bed. You're still sick, remember? But Daddy, I want to meet my sister. Sweetie, Dr. Washington said, your daddy is right. You need to get better first. But maybe when you're feeling well, we could all have lunch together? She looked at Marcus over Jaden's head, her expression hopeful and desperate. Marcus felt trapped. He could see the hope in Jaden's eyes, the longing in Dr. Washington's face, but he also felt the ground shifting beneath everything he thought he knew about his life and his son's future. We'll see, was all he could manage to say. As they prepared to leave the hospital, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that nothing would ever be the same again. The simple trip to cure Jaden's fever had uncovered a secret that would change all their lives in ways he couldn't yet imagine. 2 days later, Marcus sat in his small apartment kitchen watching Jaden eat breakfast. The boy's fever had broken completely, and his appetite was returning. Every few minutes, Jaden would ask about the pretty lady from the hospital and when he could see his sister. Marcus had barely slept since their encounter with Dr. Washington. He kept replaying their conversation, analyzing every word, every emotion. Part of him wanted to pack up and disappear with Jaden to protect the life they had built together. But the rational part of his mind knew that wasn't fair to anyone, especially not to Jaden. His phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. The caller ID showed a number he didn't recognize. Hello? Marcus, this is Adrian, Dr. Washington, from the hospital. Her voice sounded tired, less composed than before. I hope I'm not calling too early. Jaden's feeling much better, Marcus said carefully. I'm glad. Marcus, I've been thinking about our conversation, and I realize there are things you need to know. Things about why I really gave Jaden to Dr. Chen, and about what happened afterwards. Marcus glanced at Jaden, who was humming while he ate his cereal. I'm listening. Could we meet? I have some documents, some evidence about Dr. Chen that might help you understand. And I think you should meet Emma. I don't know if that's a good idea. Please, just coffee. Somewhere public. You can bring Jaden if you want. Emma's been asking about her brother non-stop since I told her I found him. Marcus closed his eyes. Where? There's a coffee shop called Sunrise Cafe on Maple Street.
Do you know it?
I know it. It was the place where he sometimes took Jaden for hot chocolate on weekend mornings. Could you meet me there at 10? I promise I'm not trying to ambush you. I just think we need to have an honest conversation about everything. An hour later, Marcus walked into Sunrise Cafe with Jaden's hand in his. The little boy was excited about the prospect of hot chocolate and maybe meeting his sister. Dr. Washington was already there, sitting at a corner table with a young girl who had Jaden's same dark eyes and bright smile. Daddy, is that my sister? Jaden whispered loudly. Emma looked up when she heard his voice, and her face lit up with pure joy. Jaden, Mommy, that's really him! Dr. Washington stood up as they approached. She was dressed more casually today, jeans and a sweater instead of her expensive suit, but she still carried herself with quiet authority. Jaden, Emma, this is your little brother Jaden. Emma practically bounced in her chair. I brought you something! She reached into a backpack and pulled out a small stuffed dinosaur. His name is Rex, and he's really brave. Mommy said you might be scared, but Rex will protect you. Jaden accepted the dinosaur solemnly, then looked at Marcus for permission to sit down. Marcus nodded, and they joined the family at the table. Emma's been carrying that dinosaur everywhere for 3 years, Dr. Washington said quietly. She insisted on bringing it today in case we found you. While the children got acquainted over hot chocolate and cookies, Dr. Washington pulled out a manila folder. I spent yesterday making phone calls and doing research, she said. I found Dr. Chen. Marcus looked up sharply. You did? She's in federal prison in Colorado. She was arrested 18 months ago for running an illegal adoption scheme. Apparently, we weren't her only victims. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Adoption scheme? She was taking children from vulnerable families and placing them with people who paid her large fees. She told the biological parents that the placements were temporary. And she told the adoptive families that the children were orphans or that the parents had signed away their rights. But I never paid her anything. That's what makes our situation different. Dr. Washington leaned forward. According to the FBI agent I spoke with, you were never supposed to be a permanent placement. You were supposed to be emergency temporary care while she found a paying family. Marcus glanced at Jaden, who was showing Emma how to make the dinosaur roar. Then why did she leave him with me? The agent thinks she was planning to come back for him, but her scheme was falling apart. She disappeared before she could complete whatever she had planned. So Jaden was never legally adopted by me? No. And I never legally gave up my parental rights. In the eyes of the law, I'm still his mother and you're his temporary guardian. Marcus felt the world shifting beneath him again. Everything he thought he knew about his legal relationship to Jaden was wrong. What does that mean? He asked quietly. It means that legally I could petition to have him returned to me immediately. Dr. Washington's voice was gentle but firm. But Marcus, I don't want to do that. You don't? Look at him. She nodded toward the children. Jaden was giggling as Emma told him about their grandmother's cat, who apparently liked to hide in laundry baskets. He's happy. He's well-adjusted. You've given him something I couldn't, stability and consistent love during his most formative years. Marcus studied her face, trying to read her intentions. So what do you want? I want what's best for Jaden, and I think what's best is for him to have all of us in his life. All of us? You as his father, me as his mother, Emma as his sister. I want to work out a custody arrangement that lets him keep the security you've given him while also reconnecting with his biological family. Marcus watched Jaden lean over to whisper something in Emma's ear. Both children dissolving into giggles. It was clear they were bonding, and it was breaking his heart in the most confusing way. I can't afford a custody battle, Marcus said honestly. I'm not talking about a battle. I'm talking about cooperation. Dr. Washington pulled out another document from her folder. I had my lawyer draft a preliminary agreement. Shared custody, with you maintaining primary residence. I would have him weekends and some holidays. Emma and I would be involved in decisions about schooling and medical care. Marcus read through the document, his head spinning. Why would you agree to this? You could probably get full custody if you wanted it. Because I spent 3 years learning something important. Being a mother isn't about winning or having control. It's about what's best for your child, she paused. And because I can see how much you love him and how much he loves you, I won't take that away from him. Daddy, Jaden called over. Emma says we can go swimming at her house. Can we, please? Both adults looked at the hopeful faces of the 2 children, and Marcus realized that whatever decision he made, it would affect all 4 of them for the rest of their lives. What happens if this doesn't work out? He asked Dr. Washington. What happens if we can't agree on something important? Then we get help. Mediation, family counseling, whatever it takes. Because Jaden deserves better than what Dr. Chen put all of us through. Marcus looked at Jaden again, seeing the joy on his son's face as he played with his sister. For the first time since that day at the hospital, Marcus began to think that maybe, just maybe, there was a way for all of them to win. 3 weeks later, Marcus stood in the lobby of Dr. Washington's downtown apartment building, holding Jaden's overnight bag and feeling completely out of place. The marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and uniformed doorman reminded him of just how different their worlds were. Good evening, Mr. Johnson, the doorman said with practiced politeness. Dr. Washington is expecting you. The elevator ride to the penthouse felt endless. Jaden pressed his face against the glass, watching the city shrink below them. Daddy, we're flying, he said with delight. We're just in an elevator, buddy. It feels like flying. The past 3 weeks had been a whirlwind of adjustments. They had started slowly, a few supervised visits at the coffee shop, then a trip to the zoo with both families together. Jaden had adapted to having Emma in his life with the resilience of childhood, but Marcus still felt like he was walking on eggshells. The elevator opened directly into Dr. Washington's apartment, and Marcus tried not to gape at the floor-to-ceiling windows and expensive furniture. Emma came running to greet them, wearing matching pajamas with dinosaurs on them. Jaden! I got dinosaur pajamas too. Mommy said we could have a pajama party. Dr. Washington appeared from what looked like a kitchen the size of Marcus's entire apartment. She was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, her hair in a casual ponytail, but she still somehow managed to look elegant. Thank you for being flexible about this weekend, she said, taking Jaden's bag from Marcus. I know the custody schedule is still new for everyone. It's fine, Marcus said, though he wasn't sure it was. This was only the second time Jaden would be spending the night away from him since he was 18 months old. Daddy, look! Jaden had discovered a gaming system connected to a television that was bigger than Marcus's entire living room wall. Emma showed me how to play. Just for a little while before dinner, Dr. Washington called. She turned to Marcus. Would you like some coffee before you go? You look tired. Marcus realized he was tired. Adjusting to shared custody was exhausting in ways he hadn't expected. I should get going. I have some errands to run. Marcus. Her voice stopped him at the elevator. Could we talk for a minute? The kids are busy. They moved to a seating area near the windows. The city sparkled below them as the sun set, and Marcus couldn't help but think about his own view of the parking lot behind his apartment building. How are you doing with all of this? Dr. Washington asked. Honestly, Marcus considered lying, giving her the polite answer that everything was fine, but something in her expression made him reconsider. It's hard, he admitted. I knew it would be, but I didn't expect it to be this hard. What part is the most difficult? The fear, Marcus said quietly. The fear that he's going to prefer this. He gestured around the luxurious apartment. The fear that eventually he won't want to come back to my small apartment and my basic life. Dr. Washington was quiet for a moment. Can I tell you something? Emma asked me yesterday why Jaden gets to live with his daddy, but she only gets to visit hers. Marcus looked at her in surprise. My ex-husband has remarried. He has a beautiful house in the suburbs, a new wife who bakes cookies and volunteers at school events. Emma spends every other weekend there, and sometimes she comes home asking why I can't be more like stepmom Sarah. Dr. Washington's voice was sad. I understand your fear because I live with it too. But you can give Jaden everything. The best schools, opportunities, experiences I could never afford. I can give him things, Marcus. You give him something far more valuable. You give him your complete, undivided attention. You give him the security of being someone's whole world. From the living room, they could hear both children laughing at something on the television. He talks about you constantly when he's here. Dr. Washington continued. Daddy taught me this, Daddy says that, Daddy makes the best pancakes. Emma's a little jealous, actually. Really? She asked me if you could teach her to ride a bike because Jaden told her how patient you were when you taught him. Marcus felt some of the tension in his chest ease slightly. I have a confession to make. Dr. Washington said, this arrangement isn't just about what's best for Jaden. It's about what I need too. What do you mean? I need to learn how to be a mother to him again. When I gave him to Dr. Chen, he was barely talking. Now he's this full person with opinions and preferences and fears I know nothing about. You know how to comfort him when he's scared, what makes him laugh, what foods he won't eat. I'm starting from scratch. You're his mother. It'll come back, will it? Emma and I have our rhythm because we've never been apart. But with Jaden, I feel like I'm trying to catch up on 3 years of motherhood in a few hours at a time. Marcus watched her face and realized that beneath the confidence and success, she was just as scared as he was. He loves you, Marcus said. I can see it in his eyes when he talks about you. And he loves Emma. But he runs to you when he's hurt. He asks for you when he's tired. You're his safe place, Marcus. I'm still just the pretty lady with the big house. Give it time. What if there isn't enough time? What if I never get back what I lost when I trusted Dr. Chen? Before Marcus could answer, Jaden appeared at his side. Daddy, will you come see my room? Mommy made it special for me. Marcus looked at Dr. Washington, who nodded encouragingly. They followed Jaden down a hallway to a bedroom that had clearly been decorated with a 4-year-old boy in mind. There were dinosaur curtains, a race car bed, and toys arranged carefully on shelves. Look, Daddy! Emma helped pick everything. Jaden climbed onto the bed and bounced. And there's a bathroom just for me. It's amazing, buddy. Do you like it, Daddy? There was something in Jaden's voice that made Marcus kneel down to his level. I love it. Do you like it? It's really cool. But I miss my room at home. Well, you'll be back home tomorrow evening, I know. But Daddy, why can't Emma come to our house too? I want to show her my toys. Marcus looked at Dr. Washington over Jaden's head. They hadn't discussed visits in the other direction yet. That's an interesting idea, Dr. Washington said carefully. Would you like Emma to visit your house sometime? Yes, and Mommy too. I want Mommy to see my room and meet Mrs. Rodriguez. Mrs. Rodriguez was their elderly neighbor who often watched Jaden when Marcus had to work late. She had become like a grandmother to him. Maybe we can arrange that, Dr. Washington said, if Daddy agrees. Marcus realized that this arrangement was going to require a lot more flexibility and compromise than he had initially imagined. But looking at Jaden's excited face, he also realized that maybe that wasn't entirely a bad thing. We'll figure it out, Marcus said, all of us together. As he rode the elevator back down to the marble lobby, Marcus reflected on the conversation. For the first time since that day at the hospital, he felt like he and Dr. Washington might actually be on the same team. Both of them scared, both of them learning, both of them determined to put Jaden's happiness first. 6 months later, Marcus stood in his small apartment kitchen, but it looked completely different. The walls were painted a cheerful yellow. Emma had insisted that yellow was a happy color during one of her weekend visits. There was a second small bed in Jaden's room for when Emma stayed over, and the refrigerator was covered with drawings from both children depicting their big family. "Daddy, is the cake ready?" Jaden called from the living room, where he was arranging chairs in a circle for their unusual celebration. "Almost, buddy. Make sure Emma's chair is next to yours." Today marked 6 months since their formal custody arrangement had been finalized. What had started as a legal necessity had evolved into something none of them had expected. A genuine, if unconventional, family. Dr. Washington arrived precisely at 3 o'clock, as she always did for their monthly family meetings. These gatherings had been her idea, a way to make sure everyone felt heard as they navigated their new reality. But somewhere along the way, they had become less about logistics and more about connection. "Something smells amazing," she said, setting down a bag of groceries. Over time, she had learned that Marcus preferred to cook for these gatherings, and she had learned to contribute by bringing ingredients and helping with cleanup. "Daddy made chocolate cake," Emma announced, bouncing into the kitchen to hug Dr. Washington. "And I helped frost it." Emma now spent every other weekend with Marcus and Jaden, and she had seamlessly integrated into their routine. She had taught Marcus how to braid hair when Jaden announced he wanted to grow his out like Emma's. She had also convinced him to try painting his nails, which had resulted in a very patient lesson from an 8-year-old on proper nail care. "Where's our birthday boy?" Dr. Washington asked. "I'm right here." Jaden emerged from his bedroom wearing the special birthday shirt that Mrs. Rodriguez had made for him. It had both his name and Big Brother embroidered on it. Today was Jaden's 5th birthday, but they weren't calling it that. They were calling it his family day, the day he officially became part of both families without having to choose between them. "Present time," Emma declared, producing a carefully wrapped box. "This is from me and Mommy." Jaden tore open the wrapping to reveal a photo album. The first page showed the picture from his 2nd birthday that Dr. Washington had shown Marcus in the hospital. The rest of the pages were filled with photos from the past 6 months. Jaden and Emma at the zoo, all 4 of them at a baseball game. Marcus teaching Emma to ride the bike she had asked about. Dr. Washington reading bedtime stories to both children. "Look, Daddy, it's our family book." Jaden flipped through the pages with delight. Marcus smiled, but there was something bittersweet about seeing their journey documented this way. So much pain and confusion had led to this moment of joy. "I have something for you too," Marcus said, producing his own gift. It was smaller, simpler, a wooden puzzle he had made in the apartment building's workshop. It showed a picture of their entire group, but it could be taken apart and rearranged to show different family configurations. "See?" Marcus demonstrated. "You can put together just you and Emma, or just you and me, or all of us together. However you're feeling that day." Dr. Washington watched this exchange with tears in her eyes. Over the months, she had watched Marcus's generosity and wisdom in action, and it had changed her understanding of what family could be. "I have something too," she said quietly. She handed Marcus an envelope. Inside was a legal document. Marcus read it twice before he understood what he was looking at. "You're officially adopting me as Jaden's co-parent," he said in disbelief. "I want us to both be his legal parents," Dr. Washington explained. "Not just for practical reasons, but because that's what we are. We're his family." Marcus felt overwhelmed. "Adrian, it means that if anything ever happens to me, you'll never have to worry about losing him. And if anything happens to you, I'll make sure he always knows how much his daddy loved him." Emma, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. "Does this mean Marcus is my stepdad now?" The adults looked at each other. They had been so focused on working out the arrangement between Marcus and Jaden that they hadn't fully considered how Emma fit into the picture. "What would you like it to mean?" Dr. Washington asked her daughter. "I would like Marcus to be my bonus dad," Emma said matter-of-factly. "Because I already have a daddy who I visit, but Marcus is the dad who teaches me stuff and makes me feel brave." Marcus knelt down to Emma's level. "I would be honored to be your bonus dad. And Jaden can be my full-time brother, not just my sometimes brother." "Absolutely," Marcus said, pulling both children into a hug. As they sat around the small table eating birthday cake, Marcus reflected on how wrong he had been about everything 6 months ago. He had thought that Dr. Washington finding them would mean losing Jaden. Instead, it had meant gaining a daughter and finding a co-parent who shared his commitment to putting the children first. Dr. Washington had been wrong too. She had thought that money and opportunities were the most important things she could offer Jaden. Instead, she had learned that presence and patience were far more valuable gifts. "Daddy," Jaden said, chocolate frosting covering most of his face, "can we have family day every month?" "Every month?" Marcus laughed. "Why?" "Because I like it when we're all together." "It feels right," Emma nodded enthusiastically. "And can we have sleepovers? All of us together?" Dr. Washington looked around Marcus's small apartment. "We might need a bigger place for that." "We could get a house," Emma suggested, "with enough bedrooms for everyone." The adults exchanged glances. They weren't there yet, might never be there. But the fact that the children could imagine it gave Marcus hope for their future. "One step at a time," Dr. Washington said gently, "but I like the way you think." Later that evening, after Dr. Washington and Emma had gone back to their apartment and Jaden was asleep, Marcus sat looking through the family photo album. His phone buzzed with a text message from Dr. Washington. "Thank you for sharing him with me. Thank you for teaching me how to be his mother again. And thank you for becoming Emma's bonus dad. Our family is better because of you." Marcus typed back, "Thank you for fighting for him and for making room for me in his story. I never imagined family could look like this, but I can't imagine it any other way now." As he turned off the lights and checked on Jaden one last time, Marcus thought about Dr. Chen and the terrible mistake that had brought them all together. What she had intended as exploitation had somehow become salvation, not just for Jaden, but for all of them. Jaden stirred as Marcus adjusted his blankets. "Daddy?" he whispered sleepily. "Yes, buddy? I love our big family." "I love our big family too," Marcus whispered back. And in that moment, in their small apartment with its yellow walls and refrigerator covered in children's artwork, Marcus realized that they had built something beautiful from the broken pieces of their past. They had created a family that didn't fit any traditional mold, but it fit them perfectly. Outside, the city continued its bustling evening routine. But inside, 4 people who had found each other against all odds had created their own definition of home, one that would carry them forward into whatever challenges and joys the future might bring.